And my passion in life, I figured out, was to help other people get to where they wanted to go. And, money's great. Money's awesome. I'd love to have money. I don't, it's great when the bills are due, but that wasn't my focus. It was for many years, but I realized when I shift my mindset from money and I focused on what my purpose was, life became easier, became more enjoyable. And believe it or not, money came a little bit easier. So it was like, I tell people, focus on your purpose and the profit will always follow.
Welcome to the Spear and Clover podcast, the show where military mindset meets the spirit of the puppy. I'm your host, Jason Skisick, the entrepreneurial evangelist, and each week I bring you the stories of visionaries who see the world as it could be and can't help but take action. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and review. This is the best way to stay in the loop when we drop new content. You guys, I love people. I particularly love entrepreneurs, especially the ones who are passionate about building community around what they do. Add in being a fellow veteran on top of all of this, and you get Adam Bird. If you can't tell, I'm really excited about this one. Adam is a veteran, a podcaster, and a founder of Heroes Media Group, a broadcasting platform for, you guessed it, podcasting veterans and other community heroes. Without further ado, please welcome my friend, Adam Bird. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, man. I appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited for this conversation. You know, we've been talking before this recording, and you were the first person I met on this Pod Match, which is a service to match guests and hosts. And we booked this call, and ever since I've been looking forward to chatting with you longer.
Oh, I love it. It's good to be here, man. It's good to be here.
So you've been podcasting for a long time, right?
I've been doing it for a bit, cut my teeth in radio, probably around 2010, 2011, and then had a business partner, and we decided, hey, we can do this online and say whatever we want. So let's do that. And that was around end of 2011, beginning of 2012. And that's kind of when it all kind of started. It started off as a hobby. I didn't had you asked me back then if I ever thought I'd be doing this full time, I would have laughed at you. But yeah, we created, if not the first, it was one of the first all veteran podcast networks back then. Ran that for a couple of years, and then we parted ways, shut that business down. We each had kind of different things that we wanted to do, and Heroes Media Group was created and born kind of the summer of 2015, and haven't looked back.
Man, I like you. I was a very early adopter to podcasting. I grew up listening to talk radio. When everybody's listening to music, I was listening to like Loveline and Art Bell and Rush Limbaugh and all sorts of crazy stuff. Like hiding. My mom wouldn't want me to do it. Hide under the covers and listen to Art Bell in the middle of the night, and especially Loveline she hated. God forbid we get accurate health information. But anyway, sorry, Mom, if you're listening. But either way, when podcasting came out, it was right when I got back from the military service, and I found podcasting, and I just fell in love with it immediately.
Yeah.
How did you find podcasting? And maybe we'll go from there.
Again, it kind of started with the terrestrial radio, and then it was like it wasn't called podcasting back then. It was like
internet radio, right?
Internet radio, talk show, internet stuff like that. So the word podcast really didn't come to fruition until a couple of years really later is when it really kind of took off. But that was it. It started as internet radio, and we do a live show on Saturdays for like 2 hours. And it was really just two vets getting an excuse to drink and have fun and interview all kinds of people. And it just kind of went, it just kind of went from there. And this was back when to do a live show, you had to log into like Google Hangouts and then open up YouTube, because back then YouTube didn't have a live. You had to go through Google Hangouts to do all this stuff, and it was all this other stuff. And anyway, honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. It was like hours and hours of watching videos and stuff, trying to figure stuff out, and we made it work. And it was, just kept going from there. And then from there, people started asking me, hey, can you help me start a podcast? And I was like, man, there's something to this. I need to harness this a little bit more. And it became fun for me, and it was therapeutic. I got to help other people kind of get to what they wanted to do or get to where they wanted to go. So I just, next thing you know what, boom, I'm in this full time.
Wow. And so you mentioned military service. First of all, thank you for your service. And tell me about that. What was that experience like? When were you in the service? What did you do?
I'm an old guy. So let's hear, it was February 98. I went in, and I got out July of 07.
Oh, wow.
I spent my time with the National Guard worked full time for the Guard in Arizona for several years.
Mm-hmm.
My primary MOS or my job was a 88 Mike, a truck driver.
Sure.
Because I didn't like walking anywhere. So
Beans and bullets, baby.
yeah, right. So I did that, and then got out. I did a deployment in Iraq, 2003, during the initial push.
Mm-hmm.
And life kind of changed after that deployment. Got home and saw a courthouse, and got divorced, and became a single parent. And when probably much of the listeners out there that are veterans or whatnot that have experienced divorce or whatnot, especially if you have kids, it sucks going through it. I was lucky because I got sole custody of my son. So I became a single parent, and then that was just my focus. My reason for living was my son. And it wasn't until he became much older, he's in college now, but when he got older, it was like, oh crap, like he's kind of becoming his own person and taking care of himself. I need to get out of his way, and I need to grow up. Like all of a sudden, when he got into high school, it was like, hey, Adam needs to grow up and kind of figure out what he wants to do. He's had this business going for a while, but what is it that Adam's passionate about? And there was a kind of a dark 6 months there where I was like, am I going to keep doing the podcast stuff and help other people? What's my passion? And my passion in life, I figured out, was to help other people get to where they wanted to go. And, money's great. Money's awesome. I'd love to have money. I don't, it's great when the bills are due, but that wasn't my focus. It was for many years, but I realized when I shift my mindset from money and I focused on what my purpose was, life became easier, became more enjoyable. And believe it or not, money came a little bit easier. So it was like, I tell people, focus on your purpose and the profit will always follow.
I think that's a message that you just can't hear too many times, because certainly that's been said many. Find your why, focus on your purpose, things like that, your life statement, missions, things like that. A couple of things. Number one, you don't strike me as somebody who could not be an entrepreneur. I talk to folks all the time that are entrepreneurs almost exclusively, right? And some of them are like, I had this great idea and it made sense and I was super passionate about it. And that's great. And nothing wrong with that. But to be a military vet, to get divorced, to become a single parent, and then say, I still have to start this vision. I have to take this vision and make it a reality. That's dedication. In fact, it's not dedication. It's almost an obligation, right? Does that strike true? Just listening to you talk about it, I identify a lot with that.
No, I mean, it really did, because, I was blessed. I had worked in Fortune 500 companies. I worked my way into management positions and money was good. It was fine. I wasn't happy there. And what happened was, as my son got older, my son always came first. Like I didn't care. Like, and what would happen is he started doing more extracurricular activities with school and stuff like that. So then it was like, hey, I need to leave because my son's got this event. Well, no, you're working until 5. Well, yeah, that doesn't work for me. So I'm leaving. And it got to be where I was butting heads. And this sounds kind of bad. It's not my intent, but I put my son first, and that's how it was for me. And I was like, I'm not going to ask somebody's permission to go to my kid's event. It's just not, I'm not doing it. So that's where it was like, I don't have a choice. Like, failure is not, I got to get this started. I can fail while I'm doing it, but I can't go back to that life. I can't go back to the corporate America, what people would call it. And there's nothing wrong with working in corporate America. Absolutely nothing. We need people like that. That's not me. I got to a point, I did that long enough, and then I realized this doesn't work for me. I can't do this. I need to do something where I can be creative. I need to do something that I'm passionate about, where I can help others. And this was it. And this was just the start of everything. It snowballed into, I got my hands in several other businesses right now as well. So that's my day to day now is the media company and then the other stuff that I do. So
yeah, I mean, and another thing that I notice is when I talk to veteran entrepreneurs, almost across the board, there's this element of community generation or bringing people together and creating teams, or it's either teams to go accomplish missions, or it's bringing community together of other veterans. Or for me, it was a CrossFit gym for many years, and now it's a podcast. Maybe speak a little bit. Do you feel that? Do you feel that would have been that way without military service? Do you think there's something about military service that maybe makes us inclined to want to build kind of strong, cohesive teams? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I would say the military side of it, from my experience, was like, okay, you get leadership skills. And you learn how to, some people may play sports growing up and be a part of a team. Not everybody does. So those that don't get that sense of what it means to be part of a team. You have to learn to trust people, because when you're going into a situation, you have the person on your left and your right, and you got to trust that they're going to do their jobs. That way all of you can walk away, successfully alive and stuff like that. I would say those are the types of attributes and things that I took away from the military that wanted me to create that type of business environment. Because when you work for another company, I hate to say it like this or sound cliche, but you're building somebody else's dream.
Sure.
In a sense. And a lot of times those people don't understand what it really means to be on a team, because it's very cutthroat. Like, oh, who's going to be the next promotion? Who's going to be the next team lead, the next manager, the next senior director, whatever the case may be. And there's nothing wrong with competition, but you kind of feel like there's not a trust there. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, I don't know if I'm answering your question or just going on a tangent, but I would say like learning to trust people, which is not an easy task. And then the leadership side of things, like wanting to, hey, I want to do this. I want to create this. This is my opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And I wouldn't worry about the tangent thing. I think that's the art form, right? Podcasting. So I go on a show recently, my friend AJ's show, that's called the KAJ Masterclass. And it's a show that's in India and broadcast all throughout India and in a lot of the East Asian countries.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about entrepreneurship from a veteran perspective. And one of the things that he pulled out of me, actually, that I hadn't thought about was, for most people that work in companies or go to college and then get a corporate job, there's this expectation that like, all right, you're prepared for the job. We interviewed you for the job. Now do the job. And there's some training associated with that. But bro, when you go to the military, every single job that's not like elite, right? Like special forces or something, every single job is hand fed to you. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And you do those, you literally practice those things while not performing the job. We're not at war. You practice those things every single day of the week for years or months or whatever. And then it's completely impossible to screw it up. And I wonder if entrepreneurship coming out of veterans, those folks of us that are predilected to it, I wonder if it's like, oh, well, we know how to like hand feed somebody a job now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. It's kind of, you get that muscle memory where it's like, the one thing I loved about it was structured.
Yes.
And a lot of places, especially a couple places, I won't name the companies, but there was a few places I worked at, there was no structure. Like you had a leader.
Yeah.
And you had this, and this, and nobody knew what the other person was doing or what the other job was or this, or nobody knew what was going on. And it's so frustrating to see that. And, entrepreneurship, if people think being an entrepreneur is easy, and I've heard people say, oh, you got it easy. Oh, do I? That's a cute thing to say. Please elaborate on that for me.
Sure.
Because like, oh, you get up and you can work whenever you want. That's true, but I'm not doing the 9 to 5. What people don't see is being up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go hit your do your PT, come home, and work until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then do it all again the next day. And let alone, that's just with one company. Try managing 5 companies at the same time. Now it's all about time management and how you're going to divvy out certain things. The other thing that the military teaches entrepreneurs is how to
delegate.
Thank you. Delegate, tasks and stuff. So you don't have to carry the burden of everything yourself. And I think I'm going to go on here. The other beauty of it is when you're on a team, like we are in the military and stuff, you have people that can do certain things better than you. So you want them in those spots. And as an entrepreneur, you look for that. Listen, as a business owner, I'm already looking for somebody that who's going to be the manager, what task can I delegate to that I don't either like doing or I'm not that great at doing. I need to find those people that are awesome at doing those things and put them in those positions, because that's what's going to make the company grow.
I'm going to push back on that first point, though. I think it is easy for you to be an entrepreneur because you're supposed to be. Joey Diaz, who's a comedian, I've heard him say this. He's like, being a comic is the most difficult job. He doesn't say it quite like this, but he says, being a comic is the most difficult job if you shouldn't be a comic. And it's the easiest job if you were born to be a comic.
Yeah.
See what I mean? And so if you're somebody who's born to
be a mindset.
Yeah, well, but it's also it's part of you. Like again,
Yeah.
I talked to you for 3 minutes, and I'm like, oh, this guy's an entrepreneur. It's just very similar to me, very interesting guy. Like different paths, same whatever, same mountain. Another thing you mentioned, as you said, your purpose is to get people where they're going,
Yeah.
and I love that, especially from an 88 mic, right? And one of the things that I like to do is I like to think about, because we're all just people, and really there's kind of fundamental roles in every community, in every culture. And so when I see a great salesperson, I see a fisherman. And
Right.
when I see a really great engineer or somebody that starts and builds things, I see a carpenter. And when I see somebody who spreads the word on things, I see a teacher. And what I identify with, and I wonder if you do too, is a shepherd. I think of like, I'm taking this flock somewhere. Where do they want to go? How's the best way to get there? Make sure we don't lose that one. He's hurt.
Yeah.
Let's help him,
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to share that with you, because that's something that I've thought about a lot. And so like when I look outwardly, because as a young man, especially an entrepreneur, I think we define ourselves by looking outward.
Yeah.
And so when I look outwardly, I see fishermen and I go, oh, that's really cool. That's a really great skill. And I'd like to be able to catch a fish, but I don't want to spend my life fishing. And I
Right.
see carpenters and I go, oh, that's amazing that you built that amazing thing. And I want to learn how to do some woodworking so I can support myself, but I don't want to be a carpenter. And
Right.
then I see that shepherd out there in the field, and he's like, you guys see that mountain over there? There's some really great grass on the other side of that mountain. Let's take this whole herd and get over to the other side of that mountain. Man, that pumps me up. I don't know if you identify with that at all.
I've never even, that's a great analogy. I've never looked at it like that way, but I love it. I absolutely love it. Do I think of myself as a shepherd? I've never, I'll be honest with you. I don't look at myself as anything.
Fair.
I'm just a guy that I'm just a guy that wants to help people. And I know that might be weird to hear for some, or at least that's what some people have told me. Like, no, you got to be this or you got to be that. No, I don't have to be anything. I'm just here trying to live my best life and do what I feel like what God tells me to do,
Mm.
kind of a thing. And that's how I live my life now. I'm getting too old to do all the other, like, worry about this or that. No, man, this is what I'm doing. Like, I wake up in the morning. Hey, I woke up. Positive thing number one. Good. Check. Got it. What's next? You know what I mean? It seems simple, but that's really how I live life now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's still struggle, but how good does it feel to be sending your son to college and making a living as an entrepreneur? I'm sure you got your
And
fingers in a lot of different pies,
yeah,
but
the struggle every day, there's struggle. But here's the thing that comes with the territory as an entrepreneur. Like, you
oh
can't
yeah,
sit there and say like, oh, I'm a business owner, I don't have any problems. Bullshit. Like, you can't, you got issues, whether it's shipping issues or employees don't show up or people quit, or you got an order that's not being delivered. It could be 1,000 different things. Payroll didn't get, accounting screwed up on something. All of those things I experience probably at least monthly on one of those things. It happens. Here's the trick. Stop worrying about it, because you know what's going to happen. The more you stress about it, the more it takes you away from doing what you're supposed to do. I'm not saying don't address the issues. I'm not saying that. You have to address the issues, but you can't worry about it, because sometimes what people are going to realize is that there's a lot of things in life that happen that are out of your control.
mm.
And when you take a step back and realize that you have no control over that you can control your reaction to a situation, you can either react in a positive way or a negative way. The choice is yours. That's your choice. The situation is still going to be there. How you react to it and how you overcome that situation is going to be based off, well, how you react to it.
I'm thinking about veterans more during this conversation than I normally do, believe it or not, because that's what we're talking about. But as you're saying that, I for sure identify with that. A lot of times, you get a letter from the IRS or the landlord, or something's going on with your wife or whatever. And,
Yeah.
and I just go like, well, I choose not to be upset about it.
Right.
And I feel like most people can't do that. Do you think that's because again, I'm not saying we're dodging bullets all the time, but military folks have different pressures,
Yeah.
and there isn't the pressure release of being able to quit or go home early or any of that shit, right? So do you feel like maybe that prepares you to sort of understand that the struggle will always be there, and how you react to it is a decision that you own?
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's your decision. So what are you taught? Hey, you make a decision out in the field. This is what it is. Sometimes you have to adapt, overcome over it, whatnot. But you're faced with a decision. What are you going to do? You're gonna freak out. You don't want to do that, because what happens? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. So how then, I know you've chosen to spend a lot of your time working with veterans. How do you give that to civilian employees or clients or people that you engage with on a regular basis and need to rely on to solve problems under stress?
Man, that's a really good question. So I'm going to try to break that down in smaller chunks.
Okay.
So working with veterans, I'll always work with veterans. Is it my focus? No, but I'll always do stuff for the veteran community for
Mm,
obvious reasons.
hmm
Working with civilians or civilians that are looking for veterans, to like hire. I'll give you an example, like to hire veterans and whatnot. What should we look for? What should we do? They got these different skill sets. What should we do, Adam? What should we do? Treat them like a freaking person first
Sure.
and foremost. Treat them like a person. Understand that they're going to have issues just like anybody else, but treat them like a person. And don't think, because there is a stigma out there with a lot of companies that I've seen where like, oh, that person's still in the reserves or their National Guard, so they're going to be gone and this and that, and what's that going to do on my numbers? And I got to hold a job for them and blah 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 blah. Listen, if you're that type of owner, I get it. But some of the best workers that you could ever hire in the world, and the best thing that you could do for your business, hire a veteran.
Mm,
Loyalty, hardworking. Do they come a little broken? Sometimes we do. But and I'll say it's not going to be 10 out of 10 times, because that's I'll say 9 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. You might have that one person that's kind of but guess what? You have that in show me a Fortune 500 company that doesn't have a bad apple in the bunch.
Today's show is brought to you by High Level CRM. High Level is an all-in-one platform designed to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses without the need for multiple softwares or an IT team. Not only does their easy-to-use software allow you to track and manage your leads throughout each phase of the relationship, but it also allows you to build funnels, track stats, and more. Guys, I sat down and added up the cost of software I was able to replace with just one app, and it was over $1,000 per month. Because this is an all-in-one application, I also save a ton of headaches connecting apps and building automations, and the team at Go High Level does a great job of getting you started quickly and easily when you sign on. I cannot more highly recommend these guys. Right now, Spear and Clover listeners get a free 14-day trial of High Level CRM for themselves. Click the link in our show notes to support the show and get started on your free 14-day trial today. I'm super excited that today's show is brought to you by the Global School of Entrepreneurship. Most practicing entrepreneurs cannot take 2 years away from their growing business to attend a full-time campus-based program or spend every weekend away from family and business for a couple of years. Finally, there's an accredited program specifically designed for you to work on and grow your business while completing your MBA. The GSE MBA complements the needs and schedules of someone actively engaged in an entrepreneurial venture while still covering the accredited curriculum expected from any MBA program. The Global School of Entrepreneurship offers a unique offering called the Mastermind to MBA program. It consists of 10 students who work together in a forum-style cohort and meet every other week for a year. The GSE MBA helps you develop skills in critical thinking and strategic planning. Students also develop competencies in leadership, decision-making, and communication with both employees as well as the important stakeholders in your business. You will be exposed to world-class academics and fascinating guest lecturers. You'll work on your business while working in your business. Students are guided by real-world entrepreneurs with decades of experience starting and scaling businesses just like yours. Best of all, I'm beyond proud to announce that the Global School of Entrepreneurship has agreed to offer one Spear and Clover listener a scholarship to join an upcoming Mastermind to MBA cohort. They are looking for someone just like you to bring a unique perspective to the program, and they are accepting applications right now. To learn more and to apply, simply go to www.gse.mba/spear. That's www.gse.mba/spear. Don't miss this opportunity to level yourself up and surround yourself with other like-minded entrepreneurs just like you. Once again, to apply for the GSE MBA Spear and Clover Scholarship, simply visit www.gse.mba/spear. That's www.gse.mba/spear. Today's show is brought to you by Scaling with Media. I mean, literally, like if it weren't for the folks at Scaling with Media, you would not be getting this. Scaling with Media is a truly revolutionary company for any entrepreneur who wants to reach a larger audience without taking on the years of experience necessary to master the required skills. These guys do it all. From helping you develop your creative plan to editing, sourcing content, copywriting, ads management, and way more. Whether you're looking to launch a YouTube channel or podcast, or you just want to scale your business out to more eyeballs, these guys are the absolute best one-stop shop. But that's not all. Right now, Spear and Clover listeners who sign up for their brand launch package will receive a free, that's right, free professional grade studio kit that I'm actually recording right now on. The studio kit includes a professional microphone, stand, lighting, and headphones, and is worth well over $500. Take action now by going to scalingwithmedia.com/spear and claim your free studio kit. Again, that's scalingwithmedia.com/spear, scalingwithmedia.com/spear. Now back to the show. Well, and it's all about right person in the right seat, right?
Exactly.
Certainly not all not all veterans should come out and start their own companies. And certainly not all veterans should come out and become investment bankers, and they shouldn't be dealer. It's just different people, different ways. The thing that I think, I don't want to say it makes me sad, because I don't really get sad in that way, but the thing that I find a little bit unfortunate, I find sometimes you have these folks that come out of the military and they see a wall right in front of their face. And right behind that wall is like the entire world.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you break down that wall for somebody when it's a wall that they put there, even if they don't know it?
Well, okay. So yes and no. So the wall's there. Let's focus on the wall. And let's say you're talking about somebody that's getting ready to transition out. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of how I envision it is when you say a wall, you got somebody that's active duty getting ready to transition, and they go over the wall or they go through the wall, and there's this whole world in front of them. What are they supposed to do?
No, let me clarify. What I mean is I think sometimes people think that they're not good enough to come out and do X, Y, or Z. They, instead of a window or a door, they see a wall. In other words, like I just know folks. I mean, I wish I stayed in touch with more of my military friends, but I know 50 military folks that I could tell you what they're doing with their life. And more of them than I would want to admit are not doing what they would want to be doing if you asked them.
Right.
And I just find that to be, I think that's just not, it sucks. It doesn't make me sad. It's not that. It just sucks, man. I know those guys, and a lot of those guys were my bosses and certainly more capable than me. And I'm sure you have the same experience. And then you go like, whoa, man, like you're a rock star. What, and to them, they're like, oh, I was a rock star in the military. Those were the heydays. It's like, bro, you could do that, or sis or whatever. You could do that now.
I think some of it comes down to training. Here's, and this is just my opinion. I think some of it comes down to training and how we get our military people ready for transition. Because a lot of the times what happens, even today, and I've been out for a hot minute, but I still am in and around this weekly. And what I see is that you get guys that and gals, oh, I'm getting out in 18 months. Great. What are you going to do? Oh, no clue. You realize that 18 months is like that, right? Like you got to start thinking about it. And here's the thing. Well, I'm worried. I got all this stuff I got to do at work and blah, 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 blah. I get that. So hearing that, and that's 9 out of 10 times you hear a lot of that. Well, I got to still show up for work. Well, nobody's telling you can't show up for work, but you got to start thinking about your transition. If you're going to get out, I think what the military needs to do is say, hey, this person's retiring, or this person's ETSing in X amount. Start having these programs and what was it, TAPS or what? I don't know. I forget what it's called now, but come on, let's be real. That's not. At that time, you get your sheet and you're going to the stations to get it signed off. You're not really paying attention to what's going on.
What is that? ETS?
Yeah.
But no, there's like a transition assistance program, TAPS. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So it's like, let's get the persons, especially the retirees. If you're retiring and you don't have something lined up, or maybe you just stay retired or you want to do something else, start thinking about it. What are some things that you enjoy doing? What are some things that you would like to do? Maybe go back to school, pick up a trade, whatever. You don't have to nobody says you have to become an entrepreneur, afterwards. What I'm starting to see, and I read this somewhere, it takes about 3 years after somebody gets out before they really kind of find what it is that they want to do. And I think that's where you start seeing a lot of veteran entrepreneurs starting businesses and stuff like that, is around that. I've been out for 3 years. Okay, I'm going to do this instead.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget these guys are kids still a lot of the time. I mean, when I got out of the military, I was 27. Yeah, and that was old because I had joined when I was 21 instead of 18. Right, not old, but you know what I mean. 4-year 4-year enlistment, come out, and moved back to America and all this other stuff. I lived in Germany when I was in the Army. I know a bunch of 27-year-olds who don't know what they want to do.
Oh,
I know
so
a bunch of,
let me ask you this. You're an entrepreneur.
yeah.
So when you what was your transition then when you came, where was your mindset when you transitioned out and from getting out to starting a business?
It's a great question. So for me, I have always been an entrepreneur, and I didn't know it until it was a long time into being an entrepreneur.
Right.
So my whole life, I would do those things. I'd get into snowboarding, I'd get a job at the snowboard hill. I get into cars, I get a job at the shop. I get into clothes, I work at the mall. So I'm like making businesses out of the things that I like to do, even if it was for somebody else. So
Yeah.
I've never succeeded at a job that was about something I didn't care about. I worked for a bread truck, quit after a week. I worked for a manufacturing company for beds, quit after like a month or whatever. I got out of the military. I started flipping road bikes, which I was really into on Craigslist, and flipping computers because I was into computers.
Yeah.
I got a job that I didn't, it wasn't my calling. It was great. It was a good opportunity. It was because I was a veteran. I think that the guy hired me. Great job at Abbott Labs pharmaceutical company. But the whole time I was I was looking past the Army. I was reading Fortune magazine. I'm reading Donald Trump's books on fucking the art of the deal. I'm reading like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm having my entrepreneurial awakening in the desert into crit, right? And so I get back and I'm like, I'm gonna, I don't even have the language to say what I wanted to do. I didn't think I was going to start a small business. I thought I was going to become an investment banker or a financier or whatever. And so I go to school, the new GI Bill for finance, and I get that job. But along the way, I started a little CrossFit gym that was a hobby, kind of like you're talking about your radio show. Started a little CrossFit gym that was a hobby with two brothers, also military veterans, also from the Army. And we were like, well, that's not a business. That's just this thing that we love passionately with all of our hearts. And so it was like 6 years later where I was like, oh, wait a second. I don't want to do that thing. And all I want to do is this thing. And so that, it became a foregone conclusion and, kind of a couple of lily pad hops from point A to point B. And, I never looked back.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can tell you my first really sign of entrepreneurship, I was 15 and I started a little cleaning crew for like the contractors in the area, the development area. But, hey, you can come in and, clean up this stuff, whatever. So I did that and they'd pay me under the table or whatnot. Perfect. And then my second one was I was 21 and I started a landscape business and snow removal. And I love being outdoors. And I love working my hands and stuff. So I did that for a while until I moved. And it's kind of hard to do a landscape business and, cut grass and stuff in Arizona. Yeah. It didn't work very long.
You should have added snow removal.
Yeah. Well, this was when I was living in northern Arizona, so they get snow up there. Okay. But like Phoenix and Tucson, they don't get a whole lot of snow. Sure. There. So, but yeah, man, I hear what you're saying as far as like, you just become, if you're an entrepreneur. And I look back on it after you said that, I was like, I've always known I've wanted to own my own company, doing something. I don't know what it was. And again, being in the media space and doing what we do now, this never would have crossed my mind. Ever. One of the best decisions I've ever made.
That's interesting.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Could you imagine not podcasting or being involved in media?
Because here's the thing. I have to force myself to get behind the mic because I'm so busy trying to help other people with their shows and stuff like that, which I love doing. I love doing that. And I don't mind that. But then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I still need to be doing this because that helps drive that over there. Right. So I have to kind of force myself to step back from the other side of the business and get back behind the mic and do shows myself, kind of set the example, lead by example. Right. So I need to do that, especially with the newcomers that come onto the network and stuff. So I've tried at least once a year for the last 7 years to quit. No joke. I've tried. I've woken up. I said, F this. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. That lasts about 5 minutes because then I'll be like, oh, I got an email. Oh, somebody wants my help doing this. Okay. Or I'll get a phone call. Hey, what are you doing today? Can you jump on and help me with this? It always, like, when I try to quit, somebody reaches out and it's just like, hey, can you help me out? And that's when I realize that's why I'm doing it to help other people. I start losing and I'm human. There are times where I have been distracted and I lose focus of what the purpose is.
Sure.
And when I get an email or I get a phone call or a text message or what have you, it throws me right back in the driver's seat on why I started this to begin with. And there's no better feeling. There's no better feeling than somebody a couple of weeks ago, hey, I made my first 6 figures doing a show and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I don't take any credit for it, but they'll say you helped me get there. And that's, to me, that's pretty cool.
What would you be more likely to break? A promise you make yourself or a promise you make to somebody else?
Oh, to myself.
Me too.
One of the biggest things, I hate disappointing people. And it's I can't even believe I said that out loud just now. Yeah, I don't like disappointing people. I want to help people. And if I feel like I've disappointed them, man, that's a kick to the gut, you know? And I think it's because I'm a pretty caring person once you get to know me, and, you know, call it a curse, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
But
that's duty, right? There's duty, there's what is it? Honor, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, I think.
yep.
Army core values, maybe.
Yeah.
Bro, if
A
that's
lot,
true, I
lot to
can't
do
believe I
with
just pulled that.
it.
I'm gonna blindfold myself and reassemble an AR-15. So I think that's beautiful what you just said. I also identify with it a ton. I just recently hired an assistant. Shout out to Mo. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know that Mo is the guy that regularly strangles me in jiu-jitsu. Just hired him yesterday to be the
Nice.
podcast assistant.
Right
But
on.
either way, one of the main reasons, there's many, but one of the main reasons I needed to have somebody on the team is I need somebody that I'm accountable to. I need a client. I need a staff member. I need a team. I need somebody, a partner, whatever, because I'm much more likely to let myself down, and I will never let somebody else down. Again, if you're out there and I let you down, sorry, I guess you're right. But I try not to let folks down if I possibly can avoid it. And if I do feel like I let somebody down, it, like you said, it guts me.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like, I can go 10 times as hard trying to make up for it.
Right.
Okay, so take me into the future. Where does this go for you? Do you have a vision for the media group? Do you have a vision for your show? Do you have a vision for yourself and your family? Like, where does this go for you?
So that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So the media company is owned by a holding company. So I have a holding company called Heroes Holdings, which owns several other businesses. We have the media company, we have a beverage company, we have a distribution company, we have a nonprofit that's pending, and then we have a marketing company that's being brought up to speed and will be online in February of next year. The overall umbrella of it, $1 billion industry. That would be the dream, million, 1,000 foot, 50,000 foot view, if you will. The media company, continue to grow it, help people. We have a lot of clients that we do podcast production, video editing, take notes. We also, with the media company, we have a publishing side, so we help authors self-publish and then do their audiobooks.
Oh, wow.
The beverage company, if I'll just talk about that real quick, HMG Beverage, we have our own coffee line and our own spirit line. Recently, we've brought everything in-house. So we brought the coffee. We were waiting on our roaster. We ordered a commercial roaster that's being shipped from Turkey and will be here in a couple months. And then, doing that. And I started, that company to raise money to give back to the Heroes community. So we take a small profit, but with every purchase, we take a percentage of that. And every 90 days, we'll donate to a organization that helps out the community heroes.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. I've almost started 2 coffee companies, so I'm glad that somebody's doing it right.
I don't know about right, but we're doing it. I was a coffee snob, so I was like, man, what can I do? And then a friend of mine introduced me. He was a retired Navy captain. He's like, this is what we do, blah, 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 blah. I was like, can you white label my stuff? He's like, yeah. So that's kind of how it all started. And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to pay full price for coffee anymore. Yeah, I'm totally starting a coffee company. Let's do it.
Yeah. I literally just bought a roaster, a small one, and was like talking to welders about having one made for me. I didn't have the language for how to build a company efficiently without and still bootstrap it. But I'm glad you're doing that. That's so cool. That's great. So tell me about what you do for these folks. So it sounds like you do a lot for them. Do you guys work with like getting ads for people or helping them to monetize podcasts?
I do. I don't go out and chase ads for them. That's kind of, I put that back on them. I'll do a free coaching consultation call with somebody when they come on, then because we have a hosting too, so we'll do full production, post production of the show, and then we'll host it, we'll blast it out on social media, we'll help spread the word about what you're doing. Sometimes I'll go and have a table at an event like AUSA, which is the Army's big expo show that they do in DC every year, or maybe I'll go to I go to Army Navy game, we might have a table up there or something like. Cool. I'll invite shows to come out, and you're at the Heroes Media Group booth, but you're branding your brand. And a lot of the time that exposure, they're not normally going to get stuff like that trying to do it themselves. You're starting to see a little bit more of shows being able to do that, but as a network with 40 plus shows, and I've been doing this for a while. I know how to get in, and that's usually how I do. So we help them get more exposure. But I don't, if I know a company or a business that, hey, this would be a good fit, talk to them. Absolutely. We've done guests. I'll help people get on other shows. And that's kind of what's cool about being a part of our network is the cross promotion between the shows helps grow each other's audiences and stuff like that. So
I'm not sure if you think of this word as much as I do, but I think of this word all the time, and that word is scale. And so, as a fitness guy, it's so easy to explain. I liked getting in shape. I found fitness, got in shape. And so I was like, wow, let's tell 3 or 4 people in the alley behind my apartment in Chicago how to do this. And I helped them get in shape. And then I started a small gym and we had 20 people, and then it was 100, and then it was maybe 400 or 500. And then I said, wow, now I can coach entrepreneurs who also own gyms, and they each have hundreds of members. So now I can impact thousands. And then here, I say, well, maybe not fitness, but entrepreneurship. Now I can blast that out to, obviously limited scale, unlimited scale. And so as I'm hearing you describe that, all I hear is like big capital S scale. So like you're curating and helping veterans find their voice, and then you're infinitely helping them to scale that voice outward. And so that's a pretty amazing mission that you're on. At the end of the day, what do you want the impact to be that you make on the world?
Ooh, great question. The impact that I want to make on the world. So 2 things. I would say I would want to change how media is delivered and consumed. And we're kind of doing that with what you and I do. But I want to change people's mindsets and think more positive. Now, here's the kicker. Positivity doesn't sell. That's what we're trained to think. And we've been, I don't know, through our, you and I I'm a little older than you, but throughout our lives, that's what we've been told. It's like, oh, the media says this and this and whatnot. And you got to be positive, but that's not what sells. It's the negativity. It's the story that sells. I want to change that because I think there's more positive stories in the world than negative stories. And I think you can sell on the positivity side of things, but it starts with a person's mindset, and it's not going to happen overnight. It may not happen in the next 5 years, 7 years. It may take 15, 20 years from now. We certainly didn't get to where we are in the world right now overnight. This has taken many, many years to happen. So I think I would want people to be more positive and appreciate life and realize, hey, this life is good. It's about how you look at it, and you have a choice. When you wake up in the morning, you have something to be grateful for. You woke up because, believe it or not everybody did.
Beautiful. There's 2 questions that I ask every single person that comes on the show. Are you ready for those 2 questions?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. The first question, if you had access to unlimited financial capital, how would you profitably grow your current businesses?
Hire the right people and scale, because the mission for me, big part of the mission is create jobs. We want to create jobs and bring jobs back here in the United States, because I think if we take care of ourselves here, then we can go do stuff later on around the world. So I would say the biggest thing is, create jobs and scale those businesses. And I think that ties in with really everything, because if you're not creating the jobs, I don't know if you can scale, because I'm in a service industry and products and whatnot. And by ordering, like for the beverage company, if I'm ordering coffee from our different farmers and whatnot, I'm creating jobs, I'm creating demand for them. If if we're getting more podcasts and stuff on the network and whatnot, I'm certainly not going to sit behind this desk and edit every show that comes across the desk. We got to get people there. So now we're buying a building that we can, have some offices and create studios where people can come in and do that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Cool. I love that.
It's all about creating jobs and creating an environment that's healthy and positive for people.
I love that. So the second question, Adam, is if you had to quit all of the businesses that you're currently or ever have been a part of and start something totally new you've never done before, what do you think that might be?
The smart ass answer in me wants to say underwater basket weaving. I would, if I had to start fresh, man, something completely new, something that I've never done before.
Never done it. Yeah, you've never done it.
I'd probably start a nursery for gardening.
Wow. Would you care to elaborate on that?
I have no idea where that came from. That
Why?
literally
Say
just
more.
like out of left field. There's something about growing your own food and growing trees that blossoms into like these beautiful flowers and stuff like that. There's just something about nature that is peaceful and it gets you, I don't sound like, you're going to find your chi. And I'm not, because I'm not like that, but I
It's
like,
okay. You can say that.
you know what I mean? It's like,
Nobody's going to take your veteran
you know,
card away.
I like growing my own stuff. I mean, I got, my deck outside, I got, I don't know, probably 10, 15 5-gallon buckets that are growing stuff, in it, legal stuff for the record. And, I got a little tree garden, hydroponic garden that we built in the house with LED lights and stuff. And it's like growing your own food. And then, I started growing some apple trees that we planted this past year. And I thought that was the coolest thing. It was just like, man, this little apple tree and it's growing. And now the deer are starting to eat from it. And it was like, that's freaking cool.
Yeah.
There's just something about that. Yeah. I'd say a nursery.
So I'm going to amend my previous statement. You're not a shepherd. You're a gardener. Same vibe, different medium. That's so interesting.
But here's how I would look at that, because there's that I would go as far as to say a different type of gardener.
Okay.
Because of our backgrounds. I'm not your typical gardener, because there's that old adage is like it's better to be what is it? It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
And so when I hear gardener, I immediately think of that.
I like
that passage.
What's the other one? Parabellum. It's like pray for peace, prepare for war.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Super cool. Adam Bird, you're a bad mofo. Thank you so much for coming on. Plug everything you got, man. Where can we find you?
Hey, we are on all the social media platforms. You can go to @HeroesMediaGRP or check out HMG Beverage on all the social media platforms. If you want to check out all the shows that we have on Heroes Media Group, go to heroesmediagroup.com. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. All right. And we'd love to have you back on anytime you have something new coming out. I think you're right up our alley here at Spear & Clover.
Hey, thanks,
you, brother.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to show us some love by liking, rating, and subscribing so we can keep making more and better content. If you'd like to support the show and get a great additional content like exclusive shows and even live group masterminds, please head over to patreon.com/spearandclover to become a member of the tribe. If you're interested in learning more about how we help entrepreneurs, visit spearandclover.com or message us on any of our platforms. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.